I'm 32, and I never thought I'd end up being that guy, the one who supports his entire family while they call him a failure behind his back. Or in my case, to my face. My name's Luke, and if you'd told me a few years ago that I'd be the villain in my own family's story, I would have laughed it off. But now, after what happened at that dinner, and what my brother did with that recording, I don't even know what to call them anymore. For most of my adult life, I was the lucky one. That's what my mom always said. Luke got lucky. Not, Luke worked hard. Or, Luke sacrificed for this family. Just lucky. I built my own small tech company in my 20s. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, their bills too. When Dad passed away 6 years ago, Mom's finances were a mess. She'd never handled anything by herself before, and the house was on the verge of foreclosure. I stepped in, paid off the mortgage, covered her utilities, even paid for her new car because, as she said, the old one made her look poor. My younger brother, Evan, was 24 at the time, still finding himself. That was Mom's favorite excuse for him. He'd bounce between jobs, security guard, delivery driver, photographer, content creator, which basically meant he posted half-baked vlogs on TikTok and called it a business. I covered some of his rent for a while too, just to keep him from moving back in with Mom. I didn't want her using that as another excuse to guilt me. I kept telling myself it was fine, that this was what family does. You take care of each other. You don't let pride or resentment get in the way. But slowly, I started realizing that family meant something very different to them than it did to me. Every family dinner followed the same pattern. Mom would talk about how hard she had it as a single mother. Evan would chime in about his new projects, and I'd just listen quietly, hoping the evening would pass without drama. But no matter what, at some point Mom would bring up something from my past. How I dropped out of college to start my company, how I barely made it, how I only survived because some investors took pity on me. Always said with that same fake laugh, the one that made my skin crawl. The latest dinner was supposed to be different. It was a Sunday, and I'd come straight from a meeting, still in my work clothes. Mom had invited me over for what she called a casual family night. She'd made her famous lasagna, and Evan was there too, filming something on his phone like usual. I didn't pay it much attention. He was always recording clips for his content. The evening started off normal enough. We ate, made small talk. Mom told me about her friend Carol's son, who just got promoted at his real job. I smiled and nodded, pretending I didn't hear the jab. Then she asked about my business, but not in a supportive way. So, Luke, she said, cutting into her food with that slow, deliberate motion she always used before saying something insulting. You still doing that computer thing? Yeah, Mom, I said, forcing a smile. It's actually going really well. We signed 2 new clients this month. She made a little humming sound. Well, I guess that's good. You really did get lucky with all that, huh? Who would have thought you'd make something of yourself after? Well, you know. Evan snorted. After flunking out of college? Mom laughed, loud and sharp. Exactly. Oh, Luke, you were such a disaster back then. I laughed along, quietly, trying to keep the peace. I'd gotten used to these digs. But something about the way Evan had his phone propped up on the counter caught my eye. It wasn't just sitting there, it was angled toward the table. Are you recording? I asked. Evan smirked. Relax, bro. It's for my vlog. Just a little behind-the-scenes family content. People love this stuff. Maybe don't post it, I said flatly. Not everyone wants to be in your videos. He shrugged, pretending not to hear me. Mom was already pouring herself another glass of wine. Oh, come on, Luke. Don't be so uptight. You always act like you're above everything. Let him have his fun. That word, uptight, hit me harder than it should have. It's what she always said when I tried to draw a line. When I was a kid and told her not to make jokes about my stutter. When I was a teenager and begged her to stop calling me her little accident in front of guests. I learned early that in this family, setting boundaries made you the problem. So I stayed quiet, finished my food, watched them laugh and talk like everything was fine. But later that week, when I got a call from one of my employees asking if I'd seen a video going around on TikTok, a video where my mother called me a failure who got lucky, while my brother filmed and laughed, I swear my heart stopped. It had 500,000 views already. The caption said, POV, your family dinner turns into a roast. My name wasn't in the title, but you could hear it clear as day in the video. You could hear her say, Luke always thought he was better than everyone. He's not a genius, he's just lucky. A lucky failure. And then the camera panned to my face. Me sitting there, smiling awkwardly, trying not to react while they all laughed. The comments were brutal. Some people joked that I looked like the adopted one. Others said, "You can tell who the family scapegoat is." A few even defended me, saying it was cruel, but most treated it like comedy. I remember sitting in my office, just staring at the screen. I couldn't even feel anger at first, just this deep, hollow numbness. Like my chest was full of static. I called Evan, and he answered with that same fake friendly tone he always used when he wanted something. "Yo, bro, you see the video? It's blowing up. Take it down," I said. "Relax, man. It's just a joke. You're getting exposure too." Exposure? Evan, that's my family. That's my mom calling me a failure in front of thousands of people. You think that's funny? He chuckled. You're taking it way too seriously. People loved it. It's just content. I hung up. That night, I drove to my mom's house. She answered the door like nothing was wrong, wearing her robe, a glass of wine in hand. "Luke, what a surprise. Did you see the video?" I asked. She smiled. "Oh, that thing?" Evan showed me. "He's so talented, isn't he?" I told him he should have been a filmmaker. "Mom, you call me a failure. On camera. Do you realize how humiliating that is?" She sighed dramatically, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Oh, stop being so sensitive. It was a joke. You are successful, aren't you? People know it's not serious." "That's not the point." "Well, what do you want me to do? Apologize?" Everyone already saw it. That's when I felt it, the shift. That slow, sinking realization that I'd spent years financing people who didn't even respect me enough to feel ashamed. I looked around her living room. The new sofa I bought her. The TV I paid for. The framed "Family is Forever" sign hanging above the fireplace. "Do you know how much I've paid for this house, Mom?" I asked quietly. She frowned. "What are you talking about?" "The bills. The car. Everything you have. I've been covering it for years." She looked annoyed, not guilty. "Well, you make good money. You can afford it." I laughed, really laughed, but it didn't sound right. Right? Because I got lucky. That's when Evan came down the stairs, still holding his phone. "You still mad about the video?" he said, smirking. "Dude, chill. You're trending." Something in me snapped then. Not in a loud way, not in a dramatic way, but quiet, final. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just nodded. "All right," I said softly. "If that's how you see me, then fine." I left without another word. And the next morning, I stopped every automatic payment linked to Mom's account. Mortgage, utilities, car insurance, all of it. I figured if they thought I was just lucky, then maybe it was time they learned what life looks like without my so-called luck. At first, I thought they'd notice right away. But they didn't. Not for a while. Which made what came next even worse, and way more revealing than I ever expected. Because when the bills started piling up, they didn't call to ask what happened. They called to blame me. And that was just the beginning. The first call came about 2 weeks later. I was in the middle of a meeting when my phone buzzed. Mom flashing across the screen. Normally I'd answer right away, but something inside me hesitated. Maybe I already knew what was coming. When the meeting ended, I called her back. Her voice was sharp, irritated. "Luke, did something happen with the account? My electricity bill bounced. They're threatening to shut it off." I leaned back in my chair. "Yeah, I stopped the payments." There was silence, then a low, disbelieving laugh. "What do you mean you stopped them?" "I mean I'm not paying your bills anymore, Mom. You can't just decide that. I rely on that money. I relied on you for support once too," I said quietly. "And you made fun of me in front of the whole internet." She gasped like I just slapped her. "Oh, for heaven's sake. Luke, you're still on about that?" "It was a joke." People laughed. "You need to stop being so dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic. I'm just done." Her tone changed instantly, sugar sweet, the kind of voice she used when she wanted something. "Honey, don't do this. You know I didn't mean anything by it. You've always been my pride and joy." "Your pride and joy," I repeated, trying not to laugh. "That's not what you said on camera." She huffed. "That was for entertainment. Evan told me to say something funny. I didn't realize you'd be so fragile about it." Fragile. That word hit me harder than I wanted it to. It was the same one she'd used years ago when I told her how embarrassed I felt after she mocked my stutter in front of her friends. "Don't be so fragile, Luke." She always found a way to turn my pain into weakness. "Mom," I said, trying to stay calm. "You've had 6 years of me paying for everything. You've had time to sort things out, to get help, too." "I'm your mother," she snapped, her sweetness gone. After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? I raised you. I sacrificed so much. I bit back the first thing that came to mind, because the truth was, she hadn't. Not really. Dad had worked 2 jobs while she went on spa weekends with her friends. When he died, I found out he'd been behind on the mortgage for months because Mom was using the money to remodel the kitchen. Still, I didn't say it. I just said, "You'll figure it out." She hung up on me. A few hours later, I got a text from Evan. "Evan, bro, Mom says you're being a jerk. What's your problem?" Me. "My problem is you posted a video humiliating me." Evan. "Dude, it wasn't that deep. You're making it worse." Me. "Just take it down." Evan. "It's already old. Views are dying. Calm down." I didn't reply, but that wasn't the end of it. Not by a long shot. 2 days later, Mom called again. This time, she was crying. "They shut off my internet. Do you know how humiliating this is? I can't even watch my shows." I stayed silent. Then she said the one thing she knew would get to me. "I told Carol about what you did, and she couldn't believe it. She said you've changed. You used to be such a sweet boy." Carol, her best friend, the woman she compared me to her son against every chance she got. "Well," I said finally, "Carol's son probably doesn't post videos making fun of her online." She hung up again. The next week was quiet. Too quiet. Until I got a notification one morning. Another video from Evan's channel. My stomach sank before I even opened it. The title read, "When Your Brother Stops Paying the Bills," laughing emoji. I clicked. There was Mom, sitting on her couch in the dark, waving a flashlight dramatically. "This is what happens when your ungrateful son thinks he's too good for his family," she said, smiling into the camera. Evan was filming, laughing behind it. "Luke, if you're watching," she added, "you should be ashamed. Who leaves their mother in the dark like this?" The video wasn't just online, it was everywhere. People started commenting again. "Bro, your family's hilarious. Is Luke even real or just their punching bag?" I felt this burning heat in my chest, a mix of humiliation and disbelief. I hadn't even told my coworkers about the first video, and now this? I called Evan immediately, but he didn't answer. Then I texted him. "Me, take the video down. Now." "Evan, chill. Mom said it's fine." Me, "I'm serious. This isn't funny anymore." "Evan, you're the one who made her cry. You deserve a little payback." That last message, it hit different. He genuinely thought I deserved it. Over the next week, Mom started leaving voicemails, long, rambling ones that swung between guilt-tripping and outright insults. "Luke, I don't understand what's gotten into you. Are you trying to punish me? Your father would be disappointed if he saw how you're treating your family. Evan and I were talking, and we think you've been spending too much time with those rich people. Maybe they've turned you against us." Every word felt like a twist of the knife. I'd done nothing but help them for years, and now I was the villain. Then came the family group chat, something we rarely used, but Evan revived it just for this. "Evan, hey everyone, Mom's struggling since Luke cut her off. Maybe we can all pitch in? Cousin Jake. Wait, didn't Luke pay for everything before?" "Mom, he did, but he's been acting out. I think he's having one of his moods again." "Evan, he's just mad about a dumb joke." I watched as the rest of my relatives started chiming in. Uncles, aunts, cousins, all of them commenting based on Mom's version of the story. "Wow, that's cold. He must be going through something. You don't treat your mother like that." No one asked for my side. Not one. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, scrolling through the messages, and I swear I could feel something breaking inside me. Not the kind of break that heals, the kind that makes you see people differently forever. Then, just as I was about to put my phone down, I got a message from my cousin Sarah, one of the few family members I actually liked. "Sarah, hey, I know this isn't my business, but I saw the videos. You don't deserve that. Just wanted to say I get it." It was such a small thing, but it meant more than she probably realized. Still, the damage was done. My reputation, my peace, my family, all chipped away by a few funny videos. And Mom wasn't done. A week later, she called again. This time, her voice was steady, almost rehearsed. "Luke, listen, I've been thinking. I know you're upset, but this can't go on. You're going to put me out on the street. You wouldn't want that on your conscience, would you?" "Mom, you have options," I said. "Sell the car. Cut back on expenses. You'll be fine." She scoffed. "You don't understand how hard it is for me. People know I'm your mother. They expect me to live a certain way. How would it look if I had to move out of this house? Everyone would think you're cruel." That's when it clicked. It was never about need. It was about image. The house, the car, the wine, the clothes, they weren't necessities. They were trophies. Proof that her lucky son was doing well. Proof she'd done something right. And now that I'd pulled the plug, she wasn't scared of losing her home. She was scared of losing her narrative. "Mom," I said slowly, "this isn't about money, is it?" She hesitated. "Don't psychoanalyze me, Luke. You're not better than me. I never said I was. You think I don't know what people say about me? That I'm living off you? That I failed as a mother? You think I don't hear it?" Her voice cracked then, and for a second, I almost softened. But then she said, "You owe me, Luke. You wouldn't be where you are without me. I gave you life. The least you can do is give something back." I didn't even know how to respond. I just hung up again. A few days passed. Then came another surprise, this time from the bank. I got an alert about a credit card charge on an old joint account I'd opened for Mom years ago. It was supposed to be for emergencies only. The charge? Over $3,000. Furniture. I called her immediately. "Mom, did you use the card?" "Oh, that old thing. I thought it was still active. I needed a few things for the house." "You mean you wanted a few things? That's not an emergency." She sighed. "You're really going to make a big deal over a few $1,000s? You make that in a week. That's not the point." "Oh, I see. So now you're counting every penny?" "That's so petty, Luke." Petty. Another word she loved to use when I didn't let her take advantage of me. I froze the account that night. By now, the tension was suffocating. My phone felt like a bomb every time it buzzed. I stopped answering calls from unknown numbers, stopped going to family events. Word was spreading that I'd abandoned my mother. Evan kept posting vague updates. "Family drama sucks, man. Some people forget where they came from." His followers ate it up. Then one day, Sarah texted me again. "Sarah, you might want to see this." She sent me a link. Another video. This one was different, quieter, meaner. A compilation of clips from old family dinners, edited together with captions like, "How the golden boy treats his family." Evan had posted it to YouTube this time. The final clip? That same moment from the viral video. Mom saying, "He's not a genius, he's just lucky," followed by everyone laughing. But this time, Evan had added background music, slow, dramatic piano, and ended it with text on screen. "Some people forget who fed them." The comments were vicious. Strangers dissecting my face, my body language, my entire life. Some called me ungrateful. Others said I looked guilty. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the screen, listening to that awful, fake laughter on repeat. And that's when I realized something terrifying. They weren't just mocking me anymore. They were building a narrative, turning me into a villain for their audience. And they weren't going to stop. The next real fracture happened on a Friday evening, about a month after I'd stopped paying for everything. I remember the date because it was right after we landed a major contract at work. I was actually happy for once, finally feeling like I could breathe without worrying about someone else's problems. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Sarah again. "You should check your mom's Facebook." I opened the app, half expecting another vague complaint post. What I found made my stomach drop. There was a picture of Mom and Evan standing in front of a big "for sale" sign, my childhood home sign. The caption read, "Sometimes, when your own child betrays you, you have to start over from nothing. But real strength is surviving alone." Heart emoji. The comments poured in. Old neighbors, relatives, or friends. "You're so strong. Can't believe Luke would do that to you. You raised him better than that." One even wrote, "He's probably off spending his money on himself while his poor mother suffers." That one stung. Not because it was true, but because I wasn't spending on myself. I'd never been flashy. I'd never gone on expensive vacations or driven luxury cars. Every bit of success I had was built on years of 14-hour days, sleeping under my desk, eating instant noodles while trying to meet deadlines. And somehow, they'd twisted it into a story where I was the selfish one. I didn't comment. I didn't text. I just stared at the photo until the screen blurred. The next morning, Evan called. His tone was chipper, fake. "Hey man, you saw Mom's post?" "Yeah," I said flatly. "Why is she selling the house?" He chuckled. "Relax. It's not like she has a choice. You cut her off. She can't keep up with the bills. So she's just, what? Broadcasting it to the entire town. It's content," he said casually. "People relate to that kind of struggle. Plus, we've been documenting everything for a new series, starting over with Mom. It's doing really well." It took me a second to process that. You're monetizing her selling the house. Hey man, someone's got to pay the bills. That's when I lost it. Evan, do you even hear yourself? You're exploiting her misery for clicks. You're turning our family into a circus. He scoffed. You think you're better than everyone because you sit in an office. At least we're real. People love seeing real family drama. It's raw. It's honest. I laughed bitterly. Honest. You edited videos to make me look like a monster. Because you were acting like one, he snapped. You left mom to rot. She cries every night, Luke. But hey, at least your conscience is clean, right? He hung up before I could reply. That night, I checked the YouTube channel. Sure enough, there it was, starting over with Mom, Episode 1, the day he left us. The thumbnail was Mom sitting on a pile of boxes, holding a tissue. The video started with slow piano music again. Evan narrated, when your own brother decides money is more important than family, you learn who truly loves you. Then came clips of Mom packing, sighing dramatically, saying things like, I just don't understand what I did wrong. They even spliced in footage of me from an old Christmas video where I was handing out gifts quietly in the background. Evan had added captions like, he always thought he was too good for us. I scrolled down to the comments. Thousands of them. People calling me a narcissist, a heartless son, a fake. He only cared when it made him look good. What a disappointment. I'd never treat my mom like that. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know that I'd paid that mortgage, that I'd bought every appliance in that kitchen, that I'd spent holidays fixing the roof while they filmed TikToks. But that didn't matter. The internet had already chosen its villain. For a few days, I went quiet. Didn't respond to anyone. Didn't post. Didn't even talk to Sarah. I just threw myself into work, hoping the noise would fade. But then came the final straw, the real betrayal. It was a Thursday afternoon when I got an email from my accountant. The subject line made my blood run cold. Urgent. Tax audit inquiry. Apparently, there were inconsistencies in some old records, payments tied to my name, but listed under multiple addresses. One of them was my mom's house. Another? An apartment I didn't recognize. Attached were receipts for electronics, camera gear, and luxury furniture, all purchased under my company's business card. I hadn't authorized any of it. My stomach twisted. I called my accountant immediately. Where did these come from? He hesitated. They were charged to the secondary card on your company account, the one ending in 0924. That number hit me like a punch. That was the same card I'd given my mom years ago for emergencies, the one I'd thought I'd canceled. Except apparently, someone had figured out how to reactivate it. I drove straight to the bank. The clerk confirmed it. The card had been reissued just a few months prior. When I asked for the authorized user, she said, it's listed under an Evan Clark. I felt sick. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. Relax, he said when I showed up at his apartment, shoving the papers in his face. It was just temporary. We needed equipment for the channel. You used my company card for YouTube videos? It's not a big deal. We'll pay you back once we monetize more. You committed fraud, Evan. I shouted. Do you have any idea what that means for me? I could lose my business over this. He rolled his eyes. Oh, please. You're overreacting. You have plenty of money. Why does a few $1,000s matter so much to you? It's not about the money. I snapped. It's about you stealing from me. That's when Mom walked in. She'd been sitting in the other room. Stop yelling at your brother, she said coldly. Do you know what he did? I asked, turning to her. She crossed her arms. He told me. And honestly, Luke, if you hadn't cut us off, he wouldn't have had to. I blinked at her. You're defending him? He was just trying to help me keep things afloat. You abandoned us. Abandoned you? Mom, I paid your bills for 6 years. You called me a failure online. You humiliated me. Her expression didn't change. And you embarrassed this family long before that. I stood there stunned. What are you talking about? She took a deep breath, like she'd been rehearsing this. You think we don't remember how you acted after your father died? You didn't even cry at the funeral. You just worked. Like you couldn't wait to move on. That's not how family behaves, Luke. You've always been cold. Cold. Fragile. Petty. They always had a word ready. Evan smirked from behind her. Face it, man. You're not the hero you think you are. Something inside me went completely quiet then. Like a switch flipped. The anger didn't come out as yelling anymore. It settled, heavy and deliberate. All right, I said softly. If that's how you both want to play this, fine. Mom frowned. What's that supposed to mean? You'll find out, I said. turning toward the door. Evan laughed. "Oh, come on, bro, don't get all mysterious. What are you gonna do? Sue your own family?" I didn't answer, but I think, deep down, he knew. Because by the time I got home, I'd already made up my mind. This wasn't just a family feud anymore. They'd crossed a line, one that couldn't be undone. And the next step I took would change everything. The days that followed were strangely quiet, like the world had pressed pause right after an explosion. I'd always thought the aftermath of betrayal would feel loud and chaotic, but instead, it was silent. Almost too silent. The bank froze the disputed transactions while my accountant began sorting through the mess. I'd have to prove those charges weren't mine, that my own family had used my business funds without permission. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about my credibility. My company's reputation was on the line. For the first time in years, I couldn't focus on work. My mind kept replaying the conversation with Mom and Evan, her blank stare, his smirk, the way they'd turned every wrong thing they did into my fault. I'd built my entire life around helping them, and the second I stopped, they destroyed me publicly and financially. Sleep didn't come easy that week. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's face, quiet, tired, always trying to keep the peace. He'd died before seeing any of this. Maybe it was better that way. He wouldn't have recognized the people they'd become. I stopped checking social media altogether. Every time I opened an app, there were new comments about the cold sun or the brother who abandoned his family. Evan's YouTube series had gained over 100,000 subscribers. People were following their journey as if it were some heartfelt documentary. They had sponsors now, furniture brands, a moving company, even a meal prep service that supported struggling families. Meanwhile, I was dealing with auditors, lawyers, and the sinking feeling that I'd never undo the damage they'd caused. One night, I sat in my office long after everyone else had gone home. The lights from the city cast long reflections across the glass walls. I stared at my desk, at the photo frame I'd forgotten was there. It was from a few years ago, me and Mom at my first office opening. She was smiling wide, holding a bouquet I'd bought her. I looked proud, tired, hopeful. That Luke had no idea what was coming. I turned the photo face down. The next morning, I went to the police station. It wasn't easy. Walking in there felt like walking into a confession booth, except I wasn't the sinner this time. I explained everything: the fraudulent card charges, the misuse of company funds, the online defamation. The officer was patient, professional, but I could tell from the look in his eyes that he didn't envy me. Reporting your own family wasn't something people did lightly. After giving my statement, I sat in the parking lot for a long time, gripping the steering wheel. It was over. Whatever thread of loyalty or guilt had been holding me back was gone now. But cutting them off completely didn't feel freeing. It felt like mourning. The days turned into weeks. I stopped hearing from Mom and Evan. No calls, no texts, just occasional updates from Sarah, who was still watching their videos out of morbid curiosity. "They're milking it hard," she'd said. Evan's posting about how they're rebuilding their lives after being betrayed. People are sending them donations, Luke. Actual money. I almost laughed. Of course they were. Then, one evening, Sarah texted me again. They bought a new place. Sure enough, I checked, and there it was, another post from Evan. This time, a photo of a small suburban house with the caption, "New Beginnings. Family first." The irony nearly made me choke. They had money for a new house, my money, and still painted me as the villain. That night, something in me shifted. I stopped pitying myself. I stopped replaying the pain. Instead, I started thinking, calculating. If they could weaponize narrative, so could I. I started meeting quietly with a lawyer friend of mine, Nate, who specialized in corporate law. We went through every document, every charge, every message. He didn't say much the first time we met, just listened. When I finished, he exhaled slowly and said, "This isn't just defamation or fraud. It's systematic manipulation, and they've left a digital trail." We worked in silence for days, compiling evidence, timestamps, emails, bank statements, video transcripts. I didn't tell anyone else, not even my closest colleagues. Meanwhile, I started rebuilding my own peace. I rented a cabin outside the city for weekends, just to think. I'd drive there after work, light a fire, and sit in the quiet. No internet, no calls, just me. It was the first time in years that I wasn't living in reaction to them. One evening, sitting by that fire, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear, focused. I finally saw the whole picture. Every jab, every insult, every manipulation, they weren't random. They were control tactics. And I'd let them work for too long. So I started planning. I didn't post online, didn't make a scene. I just started rebranding my company. New clients, new partnerships, fresh image. I even hired a PR consultant to help clean up my online presence. Within a few months, positive press started outweighing the noise. Articles about my work, interviews, small documentaries about entrepreneurship. My face was no longer associated with the ungrateful son. It was back to self-made success. And then something unexpected happened. Investors reached out. Real ones. People who'd seen the viral videos but admired how I'd stayed silent, professional, calm. It shows character, one of them said. You handled public humiliation better than most CEOs handle a tweet. It was almost poetic. The very thing they'd used to destroy me became the reason I started rising again. Meanwhile, Mom and Evan's content began to lose steam. The novelty wore off. Viewers got tired of the same sob story. Comments shifted from sympathy to skepticism. Didn't they just move into a new house? Where's all the donation money going? Why doesn't the son talk to them anymore? Sarah sent me screenshots sometimes. People are starting to see through it, she'd write. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Instead, I focused on my next move, one that required patience. See, I'd learned something from them. They thrived on control, on making people look like the villain. But control goes both ways. You can destroy someone quietly, not with shouting, not with revenge in broad daylight, but with time and truth. I was patient, calm, strategic. I made sure all the financial evidence was airtight, every fraudulent charge linked, every communication documented. My lawyer said it was one of the cleanest cases he'd seen. If you move forward, he said, they'll have nowhere to hide. I told him I wasn't ready yet. Not until I'd decided how to make the lesson permanent. In the meantime, I focused on living. Really living. I started seeing friends again. Picked up photography, something I'd given up years ago because Mom used to say it was a waste of time. I took long walks after work, learned to cook properly, even started dating someone, quietly, without posting it anywhere. For the first time, I felt like I was building a life that was mine. But peace is fragile, and in my world, it never lasted long. One evening, I came home from work to find a letter in my mailbox. No return address, just my name written in my mother's handwriting. My chest tightened as I opened it. It wasn't an apology. It never was. It was a warning. She wrote that Evan was having a hard time, that the stress of everything was too much, that he'd made a mistake with the money but didn't deserve punishment. She said I'd already hurt the family enough, and that if I went through with anything legal, I'd be burning bridges that can't be rebuilt. At the bottom, in shaky handwriting, she added, no matter what happens, we'll always be family. Remember that. I folded the letter carefully and set it on my desk. I stared at it for a long time, then smiled faintly, not because I forgave her, but because I finally understood. Family, to them, wasn't about love or loyalty. It was about leverage. And now that leverage was gone, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting to them. I was acting. And soon, very soon, they'd see what that really meant. When I finally decided to move, it wasn't out of rage, it was out of absolute calm. That's the thing about real revenge. It doesn't come from heat, it comes from ice. Nate, my lawyer, had been urging me for months to file the official fraud complaint. You've got enough evidence to bury them, he said one morning, sliding a folder across the table. Inside were printouts of bank records, timestamps, even security footage from the store where Evan had bought that expensive camera gear, using my company card. But that wasn't what made me finally act. What did it was something small, almost mundane. Sarah sent me a screenshot from one of Evan's live streams. He was laughing about how people take money too seriously and said, it's not stealing if it's family. The comments went wild. Laughing emojis, clapping hands, people praising his honesty. That was it. I was done letting them define the story. I told Nate to proceed. Quietly. No drama. Just paperwork in process. A few weeks later, a formal notice went out to both of them. A legal demand for repayment and a warning about pending criminal charges. It wasn't public. Yet, I didn't need an audience. I just needed results. At first, silence. Then came the explosion. Mom called, hysterical. Luke, What is this? A lawsuit? Against your own mother? It's not against you, I said evenly. It's against the people who used my business card without permission. That's the same thing. No, Mom. It's really not. You're ruining our lives, she shouted. Do you know how this will look? You'll destroy us. I paused for a beat, then said, You already did that, and hung up. Evan's reaction came next. He posted a video titled, My brother is suing me. He looked right into the camera, tears in his eyes, and said, I don't know how someone can do this to their own blood. We were struggling, man. He just turned his back on us. For once, though, the comments weren't what he expected. People had started piecing things together, the contradictions, the new house, the sponsored deals. Someone even dug up public records showing Mom's property sale and the dates matching the supposed struggle timeline. The audience turned. Wait, didn't they buy a new place like 2 months ago? Weren't they bragging about their sponsorships? This feels staged. Evan tried to backpedal, posting another video claiming it was all misunderstood, but it only made things worse. Within days, sponsors started dropping out. A local news outlet even picked up the story, not mine, theirs. Mother-son YouTubers face fraud allegations amid family scandal. Meanwhile, the legal process rolled forward. Nate handled everything professionally, methodically. Each document, each screenshot, was like another domino clicking into place. And then, one morning, I got a call from him. They've settled. What? Evan signed a settlement agreement. He's agreed to repay everything within 6 months, or you can proceed with prosecution. Your mother signed too. I sat there for a moment, silent. Then I asked, why did they give in so fast? Because, Nate said, they know we could have gone public, and they can't afford another scandal. That's when I smiled, the first real smile in months. But that wasn't the end. See, the money wasn't the point anymore. It was about balance, about closure. So I donated every cent they repaid to a local charity, one that helped victims of online harassment and fraud. Quietly, anonymously. Sarah was the only one I told. You're not even keeping it, she asked, astonished. No, I said. They made money off humiliation. I'll make peace off integrity. The next few months were peaceful. Work flourished. My company was expanding into new cities. I hired new staff, launched a mentorship program, even spoke at a small business conference. My story, stripped of drama, became a quiet lesson about resilience. But I wasn't quite done. There was one last move. One afternoon, I received an email from a journalist, the same one who'd reported on Mom and Evan's scandal. He wanted to do a feature on entrepreneurs who rebuilt after family betrayal. I didn't give details. I just agreed on one condition, anonymity. When the article came out, it went viral. The headline read, He funded his family for 6 years. Then they betrayed him. Here's how he took his life back. No names. No faces. Just truth. And the best part? The story spread, widely enough that Mom's social circle saw it. Carol did. The old neighbors did. Even Evan's former sponsors did. They all knew exactly who it was about, even though it never said so. For the first time, Mom called me without anger. Her voice was small, fragile. Luke, she whispered. People are talking. Everyone knows it's about us. I didn't name anyone. I said simply. She sighed. Why couldn't you just let it go? Because you didn't, I said. You made sure the world saw your version. I just told mine. She was quiet for a long time before finally asking, So, what now? Now, I said, nothing. You live your life, I live mine. That's all. I hung up, and this time, there was no guilt. No shaking hands, no second guessing. Just quiet satisfaction. Evan eventually stopped posting altogether. His channel lingered for a while. No new uploads, no engagement, then vanished. Deleted, gone, like it never existed. Mom moved again, downsizing this time. Sarah told me she was still telling people she was focusing on herself. Maybe she was. I didn't care anymore. As for me, life went on. A better one, actually. It wasn't the cinematic revenge people expect. There were no shouting matches, no courtroom dramas, no viral redemption videos. Just quiet justice. Me standing tall, them fading into their own noise. Sometimes I still drive past the old house. The new owners painted it white and planted flowers where Mom used to keep those ridiculous garden statues. It looks peaceful, and maybe that's fitting, because peace is exactly what I took back. And after everything they did, that was the sweetest revenge of all. Fallout wasn't loud. It crept in slowly, like winter fog swallowing a valley, silent, cold, and impossible to ignore. A few months after the article went viral, I started hearing whispers, not from Mom or Evan directly, but through mutual acquaintances, old neighbors, even co-workers who'd grown up in the same town. The story had made the rounds. Everyone knew the truth now, or enough of it to see what they'd done. Mom's perfect image crumbled first. The strong single mother persona she'd built online collapsed once people realized she wasn't a victim of abandonment. She'd been caught exploiting her own son. Her social circle, those brunch friends she loved bragging to, stopped inviting her. Carol, the one she always compared me to, unfriended her on Facebook and told others she didn't want to get involved in scams. Sarah told me that Mom started avoiding people in public. The woman who once lived for appearances now walked around town with sunglasses and a scarf, like she could hide from her own choices. Evan fared worse. The settlement had drained him. Every bit of donation money, sponsorship deals, and ad revenue went straight into repayment. His channel was dead, but the internet never forgets. People had started making reaction videos dissecting his manipulation tactics. Every time he tried to post something new, gaming, vlogs, anything, the comments flooded with reminders. Is your brother paying for this one too? Family first, right? He couldn't escape the shadow of what he'd done. Eventually, his channel vanished completely. The last video anyone found before he deleted everything was just a rambling apology, shaky camera, tear-streaked face, claiming he'd lost sight of who he was. It didn't feel sincere. It felt desperate. After that, radio silence. I thought that would be the end of it. But one afternoon, I got an unexpected email. The subject line read, "A message from your mother." It was sent from a lawyer's office. I opened it carefully, half expecting something venomous. Instead, it was a short letter she'd dictated to her attorney. Luke, I'm writing this because you won't answer my calls. I understand you have every reason not to. I've lost everything, my friends, my reputation, my home. I wanted to say I'm sorry. Not because I expect forgiveness, but because I realized too late what I've done. I thought I was protecting our family's image. I didn't see that I was tearing it apart. Evan is gone. He moved out of state. I don't know where he is. I know I can't undo what I did, but I hope one day you'll remember me as more than my mistakes. You were always the good one, Luke. I see that now. Mom, I read it twice. Then I folded it neatly and put it away in my desk drawer, not to treasure, but to remember. Forgiveness didn't come, but pity did. Not because I wanted to see her suffer, but because I realized something tragic. People like her never really win. They spend their whole lives controlling, manipulating, performing, and when the show's over, there's nothing left but silence. Life moved on. I grew my business into something bigger than I ever imagined. We expanded to multiple cities, hired new staff, built programs that helped young entrepreneurs from broken families. It became a mission to give people the tools I never had. One day, during a company event, a journalist asked me offhand, "What's your biggest lesson from all this?" I didn't hesitate. "That blood doesn't make family," I said. "Loyalty does." The word stuck. People quoted them online. They were even printed on a poster in one of our offices. It became the quiet mantra of my new life. Years passed. Mom never called again. I never reached out. But sometimes, when I'd visit my hometown, I'd drive past her old neighborhood. Her house was gone, sold, renovated, repainted. A new family lived there. Kids played in the yard, laughter echoing through the open windows. It looked alive again, and every time I saw it, I felt something close to peace. Then one afternoon, I ran into Sarah at a cafe. She smiled when she saw me. "You look good," she said. "Lighter." "I feel it," I admitted. We caught up for a while. Work, travel, life. Before she left, she hesitated. "I didn't want to bring this up," she said carefully, "but I heard about Evan." I didn't ask how she'd heard. He's been working at some repair shop in another city. Small town. No videos, no social media. Just gone quiet. I nodded slowly. "That's probably for the best." She smiled softly. "I think so too." We said our goodbyes, and as I watched her leave, I realized something. That chapter of my life was truly over. Not because I'd won, but because I'd let go. That night, back in my apartment, I poured myself a drink and looked out the window. The city lights glimmered like 1,000 tiny stories unfolding at once. Somewhere out there, Mom was probably sitting in a small apartment, remembering the days she used to brag about me. Evan was probably fixing someone's car, avoiding eye contact, pretending to be someone new. And me? I was still here, standing, breathing, living. They'd taken years of my life, but I'd taken back something greater, my dignity. Sometimes, revenge isn't fire and fury. It's peace. It's the silence that follows when the noise finally dies. I took a slow sip, the city glowing below, and whispered to myself, almost like a prayer. They tried to destroy me to feel powerful, but all they did was make me untouchable. And that was it. The final line of our story.